Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thanks for coming out, everyone. I think there are a few people scared of the rain. They're afraid they're going to melt or something. But we're going to record this, so later on, if anyone wants to watch it or missed it, it'll be available on our resident portal. So please give a warm round of applause. Welcome to, this is Josh Jenkins. He's the Community Risk Reduction Specialist with Martin County Fire Rescue, and I'll let him introduce the other gentleman with him. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Shauna. Thanks for having us. Like Shauna said, my title at the county is Risk Reduction Specialist, and we reduce risk primarily with education, which is why we're always happy to talk about this stuff. Joining me is EMS Captain Sprower.
I'm actually at the station down the street. I come here quite a bit, so I'm pretty familiar with this place.
So yeah, he is local, and this is Lieutenant Quesada with me. So, and as you can see from their patches, they're firefighters, but they're also paramedics. So, and like Captain Sprower said, he has spent some quality time here. So I'm going to talk to you generally is the idea, and then we can maybe get into some specific advice and scenarios and questions and stuff from the medical experts here. So generally speaking, the U.S. Fire Administration has decreed that people in my position shall reduce risk by a formula called the 5 E's: education, engineering, economic incentives, emergency response, which, oh no, is this, okay. Speaking of emergency response, they're in service. So education, we did 141 public education events last year that impacted over 6,000 Martin County residents of all ages. So I'm talking about CPR classes. I'm talking about extinguisher training classes, which I could do here if you would like that, for the residents or the staff. And in the emergency response aspect of the fire service, we have a program that is called Community Connect. This is a risk reduction service that we offer Martin County businesses and residents that allows you a conduit into the first responders' vehicle while they are en route to you. This gives you an opportunity to put information in front of them you want them to know about before they get there. I've heard people that have called our EMS chief to complain because, my wife is laying on the floor and she's dying, and this guy's asking me all these questions. What is her medical history? What are her allergies? All of these things. If you want paramedics to know that stuff before they arrive, you can do so with this service called Community Connect. So, for example, one of the main things that Captain Sprower wanted me to talk about was access. So, in other words, making sure that, thank you, that free access in and out of your residence for your friends and family that live in Martin County to the property. There are a lot of places in Palm City where access is an issue with gates and stuff like that. So I have had people call me and say, hey, I know that the fire department is responsible for Knox boxes. If you don't know what that is, it's a key for the fire department on the front of a property and a little vault that locks onto the front of the structure. So if they show up in the middle of the night, they can use their key, open that little vault and get a key to get access into the property. So the caller said, I understand those are $400+. That's not acceptable for me. Can you help me with a solution? And I said, sure. And 5 minutes later, I emailed her a link from Amazon to a $30 realtor style key box that she could put on the front of her property. And she said, now how's the fire department going to know the access code to get this key out? I go, we're going to tell them together. We created a Community Connect account. There's a section about access. How do we get into your property quicker? The access code is 1234. There's a key box locked to the door. She's like, don't cut my door down, okay? Has anybody seen what a firefighter will do to a door if there's an emergency on the other side of that door, right? Typically, the county does not pay for those doors that have to be busted because of a medical emergency on the other side. They're like, hey, you called us, right? So access is really important because, as we say in EMS, time is brain. So at 4 minutes without adequate respiration and perfusion, meaning the red blood cells are delivering oxygen to your brain, 4 minutes in that state, thank you, you're suffering brain cell damage at the 4 minute mark. At the 6 minute mark, you're suffering brain cell death. So how long has this person been on the ground? Before I noticed they were in distress, I called 911, explained to the dispatcher, minutes are ticking by where we're suffering brain cell death. Time is brain, and seconds really count. It's a quality of life issue after the incident, certainly. So how can we get these guys and girls into your emergency faster? Access is a big deal. So another thing is we talk a lot about Vial of Life. People call probably once or twice a week and ask about, do you do Vial of Life? We haven't formally adopted Vial of Life. We know what it is. And I know that you have mechanisms in place that Shauna was telling me about where medication is stored in a certain place. And Captain Sprower was just talking about making sure that stuff is easily available, easy to see, easy to spot out. In other words, they don't want to be rifling through medicine cabinets or drawers, right? I've had people call and ask me about do not resuscitate orders. And I had the EMS chief educate me a little bit about that. The county acknowledges yellow official do not resuscitate orders signed by a physician only. Our paramedics do not honor tattoos. They don't honor bracelets. None of that stuff. It has to be the official yellow do not resuscitate order signed by a physician at the bottom. That's another thing that you can tell us about. I have a yellow signed DNR. It's on my refrigerator, things like that. Things that can help them respond to you more efficiently and more effectively, and that are going to lead to better outcomes. So before we start getting into calls and trends, I just want to pause here before we change gears. Does anybody have any questions about Community Connect? As far as your data that you put in to Community Connect, that's kept secured in perpetuity. So it's a good question because some people have anxiety about doing this because the county is a public entity and we're subject to public record requests. You can email the county and ask for just about anything as far as information that we maintain, except for this. Your medical information, your access information, all of this information is being used strictly by first responders, and that is immune from public record requests. So it's kept secured in perpetuity. What else?
Most of the time, if you're a patient of Cleveland Clinic, you already have that information when you come to my house. Is that true?
That's not true. We don't have any information from Cleveland Clinic.
From the
Basically,
from the hospital.
their information is completely separate from ours. We don't have any access to it. So unless you have like a folder.
Okay. So you don't have the same information the hospital has.
Because we're recording, if you're not.
Right.
We can't hear it.
Yes, no, ma'am, we don't have a connection there.
Me too.
We filled out a form a while ago listing all of our, medications. And then we had a red sticker that we put on a cabinet. Isn't that duplicating what
Well,
you're doing?
Not really, and maybe I can explain a little better. That information, the red sticker, your medication, upon arriving and coming into your residence, knowing it then versus knowing it 12 minutes ago when they're in the truck on the way there and they're already processing. This is what I mean when I say helps them respond more efficiently and more effectively.
Okay.
Yeah. Their average response time in incorporated Martin County is 6 minutes and change, which is outstanding. But like we said, time is brain. So if that gets them in the door and they know what they're looking for a minute earlier than possibly could have been, that could be a big deal.
So I'm Steve. I'm the life safety and security manager here. Let me try to help break this down. We do the vial of life. Even if the pendants and pull cords are not pulled, we still go to Water's Edge, get that paperwork for you guys. And this is a separate system for you to have this community connect.
Mhm.
So they don't have to get there. They can prep pretty much.
That's a great way to say it.
You're pretty much prepping what they're going into to this emergency. You should still, if you do have a DNR, it still needs to be posted on your fridge, that yellow piece of paper, somewhere visible. Those meds have to be in the correct place. This is a kind of in between, so they know what they're going into. They know you're on blood thinners. They know you're on such and such medication. Instead of getting there and having to open the folder, it's a pre-step.
Right. Yeah, they can see this in the truck.
I'll fill out job application whenever you.
Thank you. Thank you. So any other questions about Community Connect? Okay. When I filled one out from my home, I was impressed that I got the opportunity to tell them so much about the structure. What kind of house is it? It's an old frame house. Fire. It's a tinderbox, right? So know that. Are there pets inside? Yes, there are 2 big dogs, and they have bitten people before. I'm not going to lie. Their names are Tom and Jerry, and they bite. And what else, how else can I help them? It said, are there kids in the house? Where are the kids' bedrooms? They're on the east side of the house. I would prefer if you secure the east side of the house first if it's on fire. These are the kind of things that kind of give me peace of mind. I was able to give an access code. There's a little keypad on the garage door. Please don't cut the door down. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Come on in. We called you, right? So that's Community Connect. There is a handy video on our website. It's about 2 minutes long, and it explains what Community Connect is. How do I get set up? If you need any help, you can call our headquarters at the Public Safety Complex, and I will help set it up for anybody that needs help setting up. That's one of my jobs, like I said, is to promote Community Connect. So I won't bore you any more about it, but if anybody thinks of any more questions, let us know. So I was thinking, Shauna, for the rest of the conversation, that we delve into a little bit of what's trending, what's happening, maybe how do we avoid some risks. So somewhere in the order of 28,000 calls last fiscal year, the predominant call type that the department ran was slip, trip, and fall, by far, right? By far. So what are things we can kind of look for? Rugs. Especially the kind that my mother-in-law has in her house with no rubber backing on the bottom, and it's like kind of like it. I don't know if it's knit or crocheted or what it is, but it is slick on the bottom. Those are a big trip hazard. Mobility devices like walkers, canes, and stuff like that, making sure those things are fully locked out, extended. They're not just halfway folded out, is what I'm trying to say. Grip bars and showers. I'm sure that your facilities and your safety people have tons of that stuff baked in to your living areas as well. But clutter and hoarding can be a real problem for first responders too, because A, they can't see, they can't navigate, and B, it's a fire hazard. It's a big fire hazard, having that extra fire load. So keeping your spaces clear, especially your access and your entry points, and keeping all your medical stuff in a place where it's easily accessible and easy to find is a big deal for us. Cardiac emergencies. There's lots of AEDs. I would imagine there's how many AEDs on this property? Okay. So yeah, your AEDs are here for you. I get a lot of calls from HOAs where they're meeting in the clubhouse and they're arguing, I wanted an AED, but the clubhouse commandos voted me down. And now can you give an opinion on, they say it's too much liability. It's literally legally no liability to use an AED. If you find yourself somewhere in public, a big store, a church, Home Depot, if you see somebody on the ground, adults experiencing a cardiac event need to be defibrillated in 96% of cases, I read the other day, as opposed to pediatrics where it's like 6. An adult having a cardiac emergency is more likely than not going to need to be defibrillated. So we want you empowered if you're in public spaces. Don't be that person that says, oh, I don't want to touch that. That's a liability. The Good Samaritan law is here for us for that fact. And they're engineered to be operated by lay persons with no medical knowledge. That's why they speak They're bilingual. They have tons of pictographs instructing you how to use it. So I just want to drop that little nugget there as well. Another trend, it's not a medical trend, but it's a fire trend, is lithium ion batteries. We've had quite a few structure fires, not only here, but all over the country, that have been started by lithium ion battery devices, like laptops, flashlights, hand tools, golf carts. I've seen some golf carts around here lately. One of the homes in my neighborhood was burned down by a golf cart, a lithium ion battery golf cart. So we just want to caution you, what do you need to know about them? Unplug them when they're full. So after that house burnt down in my neighborhood, I went home and looked in my garage. I had a weed eater, flashlight, a drill, and a golf cart all plugged in, all lithium ion batteries. And I had to change that culture for myself, where we don't just leave it on the charger so it'll be full when we need it. They don't like that. They can get overheated, and they can have a phenomenon called thermal runaway, which means that battery is going to ignite, and it's going to be a big problem if it does. Those fires are infamously more difficult to put out, much hotter. So that's another thing that's trending. So before I rattle on too much, I don't want these guys to get called out of here without getting to talk a little bit. So what direction do we want to go? Do you have specific questions for the fire medics, or how do we proceed?
They'll speak up if they have questions.
Okay, here you guys.
Could you give us the policy on when you do pick up a patient, what hospitals they take to, no matter what they tell you where they want to go?
They actually call me as the supervisor, and we can take you pretty much wherever you request, as long as we're not too busy at the time. We have a lot of rescues out.
Does it make a difference of the diagnosis?
Yeah, so if it's cardiac, we're going to make recommendations, but you can override recommendations. You do have to sign a refusal, but we can take you wherever you want to go within reason, for the most part.
Is there a distance or?
Like Jupiter?
We can definitely take you to Jupiter if you want to go to Jupiter and it's not serious. If it's a serious call, we have to get you to a hospital immediately. Then that's the best bet, is to go to the closest hospital. They can stabilize you and then send you to Jupiter.
If it's Cleveland Clinic and you feel it's a stroke, where would you take them?
It depends on a score that we do. And if it's a bad stroke, you're going to go to Tradition.
You will go? Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Fitzgerald, did that answer your question about which hospital?
Floor and they walk in, who's going to tell them? Do you have a piece of paper, or do we have it here in security? Okay.
Hi. Could you please describe your organization and your operation? You got lots of stuff up there.
Yeah, he will correct me if I go astray, but I do a lot of our public speaking. So our Chief Chanchuli, the way he words it, he says we are a full service fire department, fire and rescue department, meaning there's a lot of different disciplines that these guys can specialize in. There's high altitude rescue or high angle rescue. We have a fast water rescue, hazmat division, and a dive team, and that regularly liaises with the sheriff's department, and a special operations division. So as opposed to, I believe the city of Stewart's fire department, they're much smaller. They don't have all those disciplines. So there's many times where the county will have to respond in the city's zone. We have a mutual aid agreement. So we do tend to help the city out a lot in that capacity. So full service fire department. There's an air wing as well. I'm sure everybody has seen the helicopter on the slideshow there. So full service department. We have eclipsed, the number was 350 something for a while, but we just hired a new class of recruits. I forget how many there were, 25? So just shy of 400 persons that are line firefighters, EMTs, and paramedics. Their career, yes, sir. And myself, I am a state certified fire inspector is my day job, if you will. I report to the deputy fire marshal who reports to the county fire marshal. And so I spend about half of my time doing life safety inspections, and that's the engineering aspect of the risk reduction. And then the other half of my time I spend doing education.
Do you also work the ERs in the hospital?
Some of us do on our time off, but not typically.
Not part of your
No,
job?
that's not, that is not part of it.
Many of us are on a blood thinner, myself included. What kind of injuries should really concern somebody being on a blood thinner? How fast am I gonna really crash and bleed out? And what do you do for a patient when you come and, well, if it's a hit on the head, that can be really bad news if you're on a blood thinner.
Yeah, so if you're hit on the head and you're on a blood thinner, then a lot of times we'll have to take you to a certain hospital, depending on how bad it is.
Okay.
But we can make that judgment call based on how bad you're bleeding, how bad the injury is.
And if it's a slip in the shower and you were caught somehow in bleeding and
We can stop that.
can you stop?
We can stop all that. The head stuff is difficult because it's inside. There's not a whole lot we can do. So we have to get you out as fast as possible.
If I'm unconscious, there's a new glorified dock in the box emergency room being built next to Wawa's on Canner. What's going to be your policy of, are you going to take me there from here, or can you take me to Cleveland Clinic, a real emergency room?
Those kind of calls to that facility, we're not initially transporting to. But from what I understand, eventually what we're going to be doing is taking low priority calls there. So if you're unconscious, you will not be going there.
So if I'm unconscious, then I will go to Cleveland Clinic.
Yeah, that's going to be more like a walk-in emergency, but we'll take slip and falls there, but we will not take priority patients there from what I understand.
Okay, and if I say I'm conscious and I say, take me to Cleveland Clinic, you'll take me there?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Bob Burke. I'm a security officer here, and thanks for what you guys do. You're always very quick, and we appreciate your help. There are certain instances, for example, if a resident falls and hits their head, they're experiencing chest pains, signs of a stroke, things bleeding out pretty bad, we're going to call even before our nurses get on site. There are some instances, however, where I've had residents say, I'm not going out. No way. I was wondering if you could just comment on the release process for paperwork that you guys, because we're going to call you, they're going to come in. But if they refuse to go out, I was wondering if you could just comment on how that's handled.
Yeah, if you're completely conscious, we cannot force you to go to the hospital at any time unless you are confused and can't answer simple questions. We have a form that is, I think it was brought up by our attorneys, written up by the attorneys. And if you answer every question correctly, we cannot legally bring you to the hospital, but we will happily check you out. That's not a problem. You just have to sign a refusal with a witness, and that's it.
We would encourage you, as you know, someone felt concerned about you enough to call. So I would encourage that person who doesn't want to go to still absolutely let them check your vitals, let them look at you and check you over. If you're not transported, there's no charge for that visit. That's something that I hear in public a lot is people, especially people that are on a tight budget, they're very concerned, they have anxiety about what's this going to cost me? Yeah, I'm hurt, but I can't afford this, quote unquote, right? So having them come and look at you, you know, maybe there's, you know, maybe you don't charge for Band-Aids, right? Okay. Yeah, if you're not transported, there's no charge. We don't want people to have anxiety about talking to these guys. Let them look at you, let them check you out. There's no cost if you don't get in the truck.
Thank you for bringing that up because I do hear that a lot, that residents don't want to be a bother. Like, I don't want to bother them with something that I may or may not need to go to the hospital for, but I reassure them that that's your job. You're happy to do it. Let's just let them evaluate you. Maybe they will say you don't need to go to the hospital, but just let them come and check you out.
And your tax dollars pay for us to be there. We'll be happy to come out and check you out. No problem at any time of day, 24 hours.
For a potential applicant to be a firefighter, what do you require them to do? What do they have to do to eventually be hired by the fire department?
There's
That has changed.
EMT is there.
EMT fire medical.
The minimum requirement is EMT firefighter. So there's an EMT course, whether you're doing it in regular full-time during the week or versus half-time, it's going to take you twice as long to do that. And then a fire school, for example, like at Indian River State College. So that would be a minimum requirement. But our administration is really, really pushing for 100% paramedics. We're not there presently, but that is a goal of our chief, is to have everyone be at least a paramedic. But they have a
Okay,
lot of
So you're saying, first of all, paramedic school.
EMT is the first step.
EMT, okay.
Then fire
Now,
school.
The cost of that, is that on the applicant?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me what the cost of that is?
Let's just say about $10,000 for books, tuition,
How much?
all that. About $10,000.
Okay, now, once they take care of that, now they're gonna go to fire school?
I included that in my bare minimum is first
Okay, so
EMT.
you're talking $10,000 for EMT and fire school?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. What else? There's no bad questions.
Sometimes when we respond to a call on property, people say, oh, it'll be okay, I'll have my friend take me out to the hospital, versus going out in the ambulance. Can you comment on that with regards to time to be seen and where they may get in faster?
If they come with us, they'll definitely be seen faster because we're going to bring you straight to the ER. If you're brought by, and we explain this to people when we go to their houses. If you decide to go by yourself, you're going to have to be checked into the emergency room. It's going to take time where we just assess you. We give them a full report. You're going right to a room. So if it's something serious, we're really going to urge you to ride with us. It's going to be much faster.
I spoke to a resident the other day who went to the hospital. They treated her and then they discharged her. She came back in an ambulance and they were still treating her, like giving her medications so that she would feel better on the way back, which I thought was interesting. And but a question, is there a cost for transport back as well?
That would be a totally separate cost through the hospital.
I see.
We only bring people emergently to the hospital, and then they have their own ambulance service that returns people home.
Okay, thank you.
When you come out on a call, is there always a paramedic and an ENT?
So EMT is minimum requirement.
Right.
And we normally you might only see 1 or 2 EMTs on the call period. We're all paramedics, captains are paramedics. So we all have the advanced courses,
So there'll always be a paramedic on,
always.
okay.
Where my apartment is here in Sand Hill, we often see the red lights and the vehicles coming. What is a call that brings both fire truck and EMT ambulance? 2 vehicles.
It depends on the call type. So if it's just a fall and you're a smaller person, we can take care of it. If you're short of breath, they might just hit out an EMS captain like myself in a rescue. But if it's a fall in a shower, you're bigger. If it's on a second floor, there's a lot of determining factors that go into the call type, and it's all done by a computer system. So based on the questions I ask you when you call 911, that is going to be what decides who goes to that call.
So it's how many responders necessary to deal with.
It's called computer-aided dispatch, and that's why when you call 911, you're going to get a lot of questions, and all those questions are going to go into that system, and it's going to pop up with a recommendation.
Okay. Interesting. Thank
And then
you.
I'm always listening as a supervisor, so I might pop in too, depending on the comments.
Okay, thanks. You guys are great. I mean, you're really great. You all deserve a big medal.
This question is a little out of context, but you also are lifeguards?
We are not.
Pardon?
We are not. We have lifeguards. I don't know if you want to expand on that a little bit since we have
Yeah.
lifeguards.
There they are. The county does have an ocean rescue division that is that are lifeguards. So the fire rescue department and the ocean rescue department are just two wings of the same bird, if you will, but they're different wings, job wise.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, the lifeguards are EMTs as well. Thank you. The lifeguards are EMTs as well. They've got AEDs. They've got stop bleeding, stop the bleed kits. They've got all that stuff on the beach. But their primary job in a medical emergency is going to be to get you out of the water and get you up to the rescue that's going to be pulling in with these guys into the parking lot.
Now, once upon a time, we were all civilians who went to the beach every now and then. And this is a good half-hour drive to get to the beach. Is there a way that we could, someplace where we could call to find out what color flags are flying that day?
Yes, sir. The fire department has a Facebook page. One way you can do it is just go on Facebook on your on your laptop or on your phone, and that's shared every morning. All the flag statuses for the guarded beaches, what's going on with the marine life, the wind. They share all that stuff every morning. It's really popular. And so the guarded beaches, Jensen Beach, Stewart Beach, Hobe Sound Beach, and Bathtub Beach. Those are where all of those services are provided. There's a bunch of smaller little beaches that aren't guarded, and we don't report their conditions every morning.
Now, how do we get on the Facebook? What is, what?
Let me
what is the
interrupt.
address?
Maybe we can work something out with Channel 63, like a daily update of putting beach flags. I think that would be the easiest and most appropriate.
Yeah, you could copy and paste it.
Because we could be here for another hour talking about Facebook.
Yeah, it's prefab. You could just grab it, copy it, paste it.
That's a good idea. I think Channel 63 beach hazards, if we have the residents who want to venture out to the salt water.
Totally.
I'll save you.
Thank you.
What part do you play then if we have a hurricane emergency, whether we stay put or whether we are leaving?
All right. So I was remiss earlier. I forgot to mention my friends in the emergency management division down the hall. So we have an entire division of folks that are emergency management personnel that specialize in hurricane preparedness, evacuation routes, etc., weather conditions. They are always watching weather conditions. They have 3 stages of activation, they call it, but they're always at a 1, at a minimum, which means I'm just looking. I'm looking at radar, etc. Ratcheting up to a 2 or a 3 means that certain personnel, we actually go get locked into the public safety complex. I've been locked in there a couple of times. And we all have a different duty now. Your job is X or Y, and you work in the emergency operations center. Some people are manning phones. Some people are organizing evacuation routes to shelters for people that can't move themselves. Which shelter do I go to? I have to bring my dog with me, that kind of stuff. Oh, you got to go here. Well, I don't have a ride. Okay, we're going to get you a ride. So we all chip in during a hurricane and various roles.
Does that change what happens? That we have a nursing home on site?
As far as a hurricane,
Yeah, as far as what decision you make as far as evacuating, what level?
I don't want to speak out of school too much, but yes, there is going to be determining factors based on how many occupants are in a structure and what kind of occupants are in the structure. Sometimes it's safer for you to shelter in place unless our emergency management director has issued orders that say everyone in this area has to evacuate, which I think is unlikely with a structure like that that's full of people that are going to have a hard time moving. But I'm getting a little out of my depth with that.
Your team, the paramedics, on moving
Oh,
people
no,
or anything.
We don't move, we actually will upstaff. So we'll have extra trucks, extra engines, rescues running. We can't run once the wind goes over 45 miles an hour, and this calls will stack and we'll just take them. But I have never seen an evacuation order this far inshore. It's mostly like Jupiter Island and Sailfish Point.
So Water's Edge also has a hurricane or evacuation plan in place that they've already made arrangements with other nursing homes or facilities so that they can be, so staff would already be here and staff would transport them to, no. They would just tell us if we need to evacuate. But Water's Edge definitely has a hurricane plan in place that they already know where the patients are going, and the team that's there sheltering in place with them would then help transport them and get them to where they need to go.
Again, what was the wind limit when you don't run? Did you say 45?
45 miles an hour sustained winds. They will keep the trucks in place. But in the past, we've gone out between bands. So if we may be shut down and then we have a little window of opportunity to run some calls, we'll do it. And the big risk is the trucks toppling over in the wind.
Got it.
We all get these printouts after we've been to the doctor that gives a list of our medications and a list of our medical conditions. Is that the information that we would be putting on this portal that you're suggesting?
You certainly can. I think it's a great idea. I would do that personally.
Would it be advisable to attach that information along with our DNR that we have posted?
It's a great opportunity to share that information with them. I personally think yes. The answer to your question is yes, in my opinion. All information is good information for them to have, and earlier, which is the whole point of this system, is they don't have to arrive, introduce themselves, ask you those questions. They already know, is the idea.
Okay.
And a lot of residents here actually keep that on their counter. You can keep it on the counter of the fridge, or just like you were mentioning with that sticker, it's very helpful because we're going to look in the immediate, the kitchen area for the most part when we get there looking for medications or information. If you have a folder with all that stuff in there too, it's very helpful as well. So I would do both. And I know you touched on DNRs earlier, but we see a lot of copies in here, DNR copies, which are fine as long as they're on yellow paper. I think you mentioned that. We get a lot of copies on white paper, and we can't accept them.
You had a question about pets, Josh?
Oh yeah, are they allowed?
They do, yes. So smaller dogs and cats. There's a couple of parakeets, birds.
Birds. Thank you, Shauna. Something that really was eye-opening for me, I've never had birds, but I had to help somebody set up their account. And the reason they wanted to put the account, they're like, I have a parrot. He's been with me 40 years. His cage is in the back den in the back of the house. And I just want you to know, if you come here and I'm not responsive or the house is on fire, don't forget my parrot. And because the parrot can't evacuate on his own. So I just thought that was pretty cool about birds as well. So for the pet lovers, we would encourage you, let them know I have 2 cats or whatever. They resuscitate cats and dogs all the time.
So we do, in our gatekeeper system, we do have information of who has pets and animals. So when security responds, because even if you guys call 911 and don't inform us, we're following them and we're going to say, oh yeah, they have 2 dogs, because it's in our system when it pops up.
Awesome.
We keep track, AIL, security, they keep track of more than you think.
Awesome. You guys are in good hands here.
Yeah, and if you do go to the hospital, we know that you have a pet, we make sure the pet's taken care of. So whether, we insure a neighbor or family member, or if we need, AIL needs to go in and make sure the dog is walked, watered, fed, etc.
Said you resuscitated pets. Do you actually go out on the trucks to do it, or they bring them to you, or?
A lot of times it's after a structure fire and we'll pull an animal out and we have specific kits that we can resuscitate animals with, and then we'll get them over to a vet as soon as we can. But we have done it before. We have transported pets.
I like you even more.
Let's see, question. Somebody mentioned this, if a resident calls 911 directly and does not call the gate or pull the cord, when things are, a husband may not remember to do it all, or a wife, or the person can't. So, or if a cord is pulled, then it notifies security.
Yes, pendants and pull cords will notify us and Water's Edge.
But if a resident is able on their own to call 911, notify 911, are you able easily to get through the gate here?
Yes,
With
I can
security?
answer that for them. 24-hour man security. We have keys to every residence. We're the only ones with those keys. We will follow them. And if we cannot, we're going to open that door.
Thank you. I've only been here years, so I'm learning still.
Any questions, you can come talk to me too.
We have never had a problem with that in all the time we've been coming here. Security is very good here.
What would you say the bulk of your calls are? What do you get called most for, or what demographic?
Here is false. I'd say the majority is false or sick person when the flu goes around, because it's a little bit tight quarters and a lot of people usually get it, but that would be the majority.
You were talking about the yellow DNRs.
Yes.
How does one get a yellow DNR? I mean, I've legally done the things through an attorney.
You can copy it, just copy it on a yellow sheet of paper.
You mean like a legal pad? Just a yellow
You
tablet?
can make a yellow copy, and if we go to your house and we find a DNR and it's not yellow legal copy, what I will do is contact the medical director at the hospital and ask that he honor that DNR.
So you can ask your physician for a DNR, and typically they have copies, and they would need to sign it and you would need to sign it. I can give you a sample. I have blank DNRs in my office. You could take it to your physician and have them sign it. And then when we make copies, we just make sure it's on yellow paper, like the original.
Yeah.
Some special yellow sheet.
No, and if it's
Well,
if it's
it is
white,
for us.
because the hospital honors white paper, and that's sometimes when you get in discharge paperwork, if you've met with the caregivers there, we will still honor it, but there's a process to that where I have to call the hospital first, and then in the meantime we do have to start care before we can stop.
Are we questioned out? Is there anything our residents or staff could do better or differently to help you when you're coming into our campus and our homes?
No, I think the security here lets us in very quickly and early. We always have access to the rooms. The biggest thing is when we get inside the hallway, making sure the hallway is clear. That seems to be the biggest problem in coming in with, we have to move a lot of things to get the stretcher in. Plants, desks, whatever you have in the main entryway, or getting to just an open entry.
So
is
coming
is
into
biggest thing.
the apartments or
Yes,
villas themselves, you have to be able to get the stretcher through.
that's the biggest thing. And we can still get to you and start working, but then we'll have to have another crew member to moving things out of the way to get the stretcher in. It's not going to delay your care.
Okay. Anything else, you all? Oh.
I think we all appreciate you. And I want to know, do you have a calendar?
We did, but I'm too old to be on it.
Atta girl, Judy.
20 years ago, I could have been.
I think think that's it for us in questioning. Any final thoughts from you?
I'm impressed with my own final thought is I'm really impressed with all of the care that you guys are getting here. The staff seems to have every box checked. So, and being the guy who conducts an annual fire inspection on the property, A+ here, A+.
And the only thing I was going to say is when in doubt, just call 911. Even if you don't come with us, when in doubt, call. We'll come check you out. It can be anything. We don't mind. We're just down the street.
Thank you. Oh,
You don't allow pets to go with the patient in the ambulance, right?
We don't, only because the hospital will not take them.
Okay.
So it's a good idea if you have
Unless
a pet.
it's
to
a
maybe-
service dog, full service dog, or no?
That's a good question. I would think a hospital would accept a service dog.
Yeah.
But a good idea is to have like a neighbor plan, if you're going to the hospital, have a neighbor that will take your dog that, knows you. But
Yeah, just the only thing about service animals, the ADA does say, the federal government does say that service dogs shall be permitted. Anywhere where someone can go, your service animal can go with you. The ADA says a service animal is a dog or I forget the breed of horse, but it's a small horse. So my service parrot on my shoulder, that doesn't work. Cats don't work. To be a government protected service animal, we're talking dogs or mini horse. They're not required to wear identifying vests, but oftentimes they do just to make life easier for everybody, but they don't have to.
Mrs. Foley wants to know how she can get a helicopter ride.
I'm still trying to figure that out. I've been there for 21 years. I'm too heavy for it.
Okay, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it.
Not a problem.